Hi, boys and girls. So we have Read Aloud for April 7th, 2020, and the title of our text is How Native American Slaveholders Complicate the Trail of Tears Narrative. And this is a topic a lot of you seem to know a lot about, and we've been studying it. But before I even get into the read aloud, I just want to double check on Mayan because this is something that myself and the fifth grade teachers noticed that like some of you are using, some of you maybe not, but if you're not using it, I highly recommend it. When I log on, I go to the library and then I hit search and then I just type in here Westward Expansion and here we go, 12 books came up. And some of these are like graphic novels, like narrative nonfiction. Some of them are nonfiction, more told in like an informational way. But this is a good resource, guys, okay? Don't forget about it. And also don't forget about this website just for your everyday reading life. And I could even show you really quickly. Look at all of these graphic novels because I know in my class I have a ton of students who love graphic novels. So just check that out when you get a chance. Look how many there are. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love it. This looks awesome. Oh, that looks kind of creepy. Edgar Allan Poe. He's such a good author. If you don't know that author, check it out. Okay, back to read aloud. Readers determine multiple main ideas by noticing the author's points and how he or she supports the claim. Think, what claim is the author making about the topic, and how did the author show their point? So today's title captures my attention a bit. The Trail of Tears narrative. Well, you guys know a lot about the Trail of Tears, and that was something serious that the Native Americans had gone through when they were forced to move west. But something here changes. So let's read and find out. In 1838, the Cherokee Nation was driven off its traditional homeland in the southeastern United States. Okay, and we know what that is called. That was the Indian Removal Act. So let's not forget about that. I could even jot that down right here. The removal order came from the U.S. President Andrew Jackson. Around 16,000 Cherokees were forced to migrate west to Oklahoma. We know that they had to go through that change. The Cherokee people call this long, hard journey the Trail of Tears. When people think of the Trail of Tears, most imagine an endless line of suffering Cherokee Indians. Perhaps some also picture cruel white slaveholders. After all, it was they who wanted the Indians' land in order to grow cotton and other crops. So we know, I'm going to start another box over here. We know that the settlers wanted the Native Americans' lands and resources I might even say to become rich or successful. It was they who came flooding in to take the Indians' place. The white slaveholders brought their African American slaves with them out west. What most people do not realize is that some of the Cherokees were slaveholders too. One of the biggest slaveholders of all was Cherokee Chief John Ross. Wow, I did not know that. So you're telling me the Native Americans they were slaveholders, but they complained about their poor treatment. and what they went through. So this is a new perspective right now. This is a perspective I never even heard of. A point of view. Wow. In fact, there were many African American slaves owned by Cherokee. Many of these slaves made the hard march west themselves, while others were shipped by their Cherokee owners to Oklahoma aboard cramped boats. Museum wants to tell the truth. Native American slaveholding was the subject of a recent meeting at the National Museum of American Indian. It is a topic that makes many people uncomfortable. Paul Chat Smith was one of the event's main speakers. Smith is a Comanche Indian and works for the museum. He believes strongly that the museum's job is to provide real history. The truth needs to be told, even when it hurts, he said. Smith says people would like to think Native Americans and African Americans saw each other as allies in the fight against a common white enemy. However, this is far from true. The Cherokee were strong believers in slavery, Smith said. They continued to use slaves when they arrived in their new land out west. So they had slaves working for them. So it's interesting that they don't tell this part of the story when they're telling the story. It takes a different perspective, a different point of view in order for this idea to come out. The same is also true of several other Indian nations, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole, that were forced off their lands. They too had slaves and brought them with them. So the Native Americans also had slaves, even though they were treated poorly. This is like a new idea that was kind of interesting, a different perspective. So I want you to finish reading the rest of the text on its own and then sum it up. What am I learning about? What are the important parts? And how do these parts connect? Think about that and think about maybe your perspective on Trail of Tears has changed a little bit because the Trail of Tears is such a big part of the westward expansion, right? Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed Read Aloud. See you tomorrow.